Welcome to GameThinkTalk Live. I am your host, Matthew Falvey. We are joined here by Mr. Fisher, Whispering Fisher, a talented artist that we know. I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person, but he's an artist, he's a fan, and he's here for GameThinkTalk Live. He has to go. Hey, that's good. You have a good day. It's always going to be here for video on demand. But for those of you sticking around, I'm Matthew Falvey. We're going to be talking about the latest in gaming news. Up first is the top PSN downloads for the PS4. We're number one. We've got EA Sports FIFA 18. Sports games always big this time of year. FIFA will never go away. It is pretty amazing. I think the thing is that, you know, with hockey games, you have one choice. With football games, you have but one choice. And with football, you actually have two choices. But I think that FIFA is such a world-renowned name above, what is it, PES. Konami's won their Pro Evolution Soccer. And at least in North America, that seems to be the number one. These actually, I'm not even sure if these are North American numbers or worldwide numbers. I'm thinking these are North American numbers. That would make the most sense. The thing with FIFA is that they can crank this game out every single year, and they make all of this money from people paying to be competitive in their online modes, where you're buying packs of cards and you're creating these teams, and they really prey on that loot box mentality of what's in the next pack. You're going to need what's in the next pack. Your next pack could be worth so much. You could spend all your time unlocking it, or he could give us a little bit of money. I think it makes them probably about $1 billion a year. When they were I think it was Jason Schreier. I could be wrong. Could have been Steven Totilo. One of the guys from Kotaku. They do great groundbreaking news-breaking work over there at Kotaku. They are fantastic. And they were talking about Amy Hennig and Visceral Studios making this solo Star Wars game closing down, and a lot of people are blaming EA for closing it down, saying that they don't want to do single-player games anymore. And one of the things that, while that's not the entire reason, it is a big part of the reason. And what was happening is that at these shareholder meetings, people were asking questions to Visceral, to Amy Hennig. FIFA's online mode makes $1 billion a year. It's like Ultimate Team, be a player, whatever the heck it is. $1 billion a year out of a game they can crank out every single year with much less effort than it takes to make a gigantic Star Wars game. What are you going to do? And there is no way that they can match that. In terms of just pure money, a single-player Star Wars game is not going to do that. What it will do is it'll get you brand loyalty. It'll get people singing the praises of EA again. It'll get a gigantic Star Wars audience on your side. It wasn't too long ago people hated EA. Whether it was for DRM, whether it was for shutting down Westwood Studios, and it seemed like they were in the clear for a few years, releasing broken games, and they were doing pretty well. This is a really bad step for them in terms of PR, but they're going to move on from it, and they're going to keep making $1 billion a year, so they don't care. Number two, South Park: The Fractured But Whole. This is a great one to see on there. The Stick of Truth was a fantastic game. If you were a fan of Mario RPG and you missed that timing-based combat, or if you're a fan of South Park and you don't mind a bit of strategy to your role-playing games, the first one was excellent. I haven't played this one, but I'm assuming it's going to be slightly more polished. I know that Trey Parker, Matt Stone take every single project they deal with very, very seriously. These people have won a Tony Award for having the best musical of the year. They've released fantastic films, a marionette film, Team America World Police. These guys are powerhouses, and they love video games as well. At least I know one of them is very into video games. And they were open about the things they would have liked to do better from the Stick of Truth. So you give these guys another shot at it, picking another studio, when the Stick of Truth is already one of the best games of that year and one of my favorite RPGs in a long time. So I can see why that's up there, and I'm glad it is. Middle-earth: Shadow of War, huge franchise. A lot of crossover, I think, between fantasy, Lord of the Rings, and video games. No surprise to see that up there. The Nemesis system is quite big. Some controversy over what is it, microtransactions locking out one of the final endings, but I think that's been resolved with a patch. Assassin's Creed Origins. You're not going to keep Assassin's Creed out of the top 10 here. They took a year off. Even making a game this size, this big in 2 years is a monumental task. And some would say that it's at the detriment of it, but it seems like it's been doing pretty well. I mean, people bought it anyway. Whether that says so in the review scores is another thing. You can check out a review we have on a90skid.com. I think our writer Christy Grant wrote that one. Gran Turismo Sport, they finally make their big return. Obviously, they're going to be in the list. I'm surprised it's only at 5, but it's game sales kind of have that big bump in the beginning, and then they settle down unless there's a huge swelling for it. And racing is a passionate genre, and Gran Turismo has very passionate fans, especially when they take this long in between releases and it being an exclusive to the PlayStation 4. But it's more of the niche side, especially in North America. Europe, it's a lot bigger thing over in Europe. NBA 2K18, another sports game, no surprise there. You know, you see all these sports games. Madden NFL 18 is at number 8, and WWE 2K18 is at number 10. Even though WWE games have been received fairly poorly for the past, I'd say, since the N64 and the SmackDown era on PS1, PS2, they've not been good. I've stopped playing them over the last couple years because I keep trying and keep getting disappointed. They put them out every year. I don't know what you can expect out of a game to come every single year. Assassin's Creed was pulling it off for a long time, but Ubisoft has a pretty good approach, and they know how to work a satellite of studios. They have multiple studios working together. They have teams of like 400 or 500 people working on these games to get them out, and they sacrifice innovation for it. Although you could argue that Assassin's Creed still manages to shake up the formula, at least the setting and some of the mechanics, and then keep some of the formula the same. I'm not going to talk too much about Assassin's Creed because I barely know a thing about it. And actually, we are streaming on the channel Assassin's Creed 2. It's my first time ever playing. We did our first episode today. You can check that out if you are interested. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is at number 7. You don't usually see games from 2 years ago crack the top 10, and that's because they've been really going hard on releasing this full edition now that all the DLC is out. It's been out for a while. The last DLC did very, very well. I think Iron and Wine it was called. Was it called Iron and Wine? I think it was called Iron and Wine. I heard great things about it. The complete edition's there. It's a great game. It's a big game. It came out when there were a lot of great and also big games, so I can see other people like myself who still haven't gotten to it and wanting to jump on board that train. Hey, there's Kazi. Hey, I'd messaged you, but I was hoping to get you on the show, but looks like I'll be doing it alone. But you are there, chat. Hope you're feeling better. I know you had some problems with asthma. Saw a picture with you in an inhaler. Now, they've also been discounting the complete edition, I think, pretty heavily. So that's probably contributing to why it's in the top 10. And of course, what top 10 on any video game chart will be complete without Grand Theft Auto 5, the game that just keeps on delivering because of this online service, game as a service, where you're teaching players that you can get a certain amount of in-game currency with your time, but wouldn't your time be better spent if you just give us $5? You just give us $10. Basically, when I would play Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas, I liked Vice City the best. A lot of times you'd play and you'd mess around, you'd do a bit of the story, but it was really fun to just hop in for 20 minutes, turn on all the cheat codes, and go crazy. See how long we used to pass the controller around at parties and see who could last the longest and get the highest star rating. And now, basically, with this online, it's the same, except you are now paying money in in-game currency to access these better weapons and these better jumps. So it's a great model, and it's a little bit scary because it looks like, look at all these things on here. FIFA 18. Middle-earth Shadow of War has got microtransactions. Gran Turismo Sport, that's an online competitive game. NBA 2K18, Madden NFL 18, Grand Theft Auto 5, and WWE 2K18. These are all games that are going to have a lot of microtransactions and online play. That's 7 out of the 10. South Park and Assassin's Creed and The Witcher are the standalone games that are just purely praised for their single player. And looking at this list again, I'm really happy to see that South Park is so darn high. Is there any chance we could get you on the show, Kazi? Let me know. We could always take a pause and bring you in. PSVR games. We'll go through these a little bit quicker. I Expect You to Die is number 1. Drive Club VR, number 2. Arizona Sunshine, number 3. PlayStation VR Worlds, number 4. Job Simulator 5, still one of the best VR games out there. Static at 6. Raw Data at 7. Super Hot VR at 8. Keep Talking Nobody Explodes at number 9. And Surgeon Simulator Experience Reality at number 10. We're starting to see some more games. This second or third generation of VR games starting to come through. I guess maybe second generation, you might call it, at least for the mainstream ones, now that it's been available to everybody on all consoles. PS Vita games, yes, they still make PS Vita games. Salt and Sanctuary, that is a great little that would be a great title to play on the handheld. It's a little side-scrolling version of Dark Souls if you haven't played it. That goes beyond its very obvious inspirations from Dark Souls. It takes so much from Dark Souls. I think they could probably build a legal case against them, but they add a few things of their own. Kazi's saying he guesses. Kazi, if you just want to chill, don't worry about it, buddy. We'll hit it up next time. We have plenty more shows to do with you. Undertale at number 2 on the iPhone. No thanks. We'll get you in when you're in your studio on an iPhone on 3G, and it's an iPhone 3G on 3G. You just enjoy, buddy. But I can read your comments on here, so we'll have your presence on. Undertale finally made its way over to the PSN Store, holding strong. I think this is the second or third month that it's been on there, which is quite impressive. Usually these games only have a big spike early on. Hey, we've got our first Super Mario Odyssey track on. Little Mexican vibe going. Great soundtrack from Super Mario Odyssey. I highly recommend listening to it, although try to watch out because there are some spoilers in the song title names. God of War Collection on the PS Vita. That's a great title. I love being able to take... One of my favorite things about the Vita is getting to replay the older PS1 games that I missed. Resident Evil 2, Final Fantasy 9 on the Vita. And the little child in me that had a PlayStation is so excited every time he does. Every time he gets to play, when he sees that logo. I'm talking about my child as a third person, but the little kid inside me, when I see that PS1 logo flash up, or I'm playing a PS2 game, or something that almost looks like it could be on the PS3 on my Vita, it's just so great. And that's why I'm totally in love with the Nintendo Switch, to be playing a gorgeous looking Mario game, a new one, Mario Odyssey, while my girlfriend's driving me around because she's finally got her learner's license. It's just the greatest thing in the world. Even though I probably can't get anything done on that 5-minute drive. Actually, I got a couple of moons driving from the grocery store and back. Right, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. I believe that was on sale. From what I've heard, fantastic narrative games with a really dark vibe, dark story. I would love to get into them too. Jak and Daxter Collection, you can't beat nostalgia, even if unless it's Bubsy. Minecraft, the Vita Edition, always going to be a big seller. Another game as a service. I don't know what the heck this is. Touhou Double Focus, Touhou. Probably some kind of Japanese game. Persona 4 Dancing in Light, that must have been a sale. Silent Hill Book of Memories, little portable horror for you. And Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z. PS Classics, these are the top ones being sold. Resident Evil Code Veronica X, GTA San Andreas, Bully, Metal Slug Anthology, Psychonauts The Warriors, Jak and Daxter, again, the precursor Legacy, Legends of Legacy, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, The King of Fighters 2000, and Resident Evil 2. So, that was for the top PSN games. So, we're going to move on now down to Sonic Forces reviews. These are some of the early reviews that have come out. Polygon gives it a 5 out of 10. I'll read a little blurb from it. Sonic Forces creators' good intentions and interesting ideas don't amount to much in a game so clumsy and limited in design. It certainly doesn't help that Forces follows right on the heels of Sonic Mania, a game that not only demonstrated a more focused design sensibility, but also did a far better job of realizing its creators' ambitions. Forces may have had a larger budget than Mania, but it feels like the poorer creation all around. Unless your dearest dream has always been to play a Sonic game as your own original fan art character, Sonic Forces doesn't have much to offer. Famitsu gave it a 35 out of 40, a 9998. So that's a huge disparity. Polygon giving it an extremely low score for Polygon. Well, Polygon rates usually less on the lesser side than, say, your IGNs and your GameSpots. But 5 is pretty brutal. I mean, especially out of 10, you rarely see anything below 6. TSSZ News gave it a 2 out of 5. Never heard of this website, but their blurb is, Sonic Forces has a strong story and stronger fan service at the expense of inconsistent and at times outright broken gameplay that yields only minimal dividends. Only minimal dividends for your stockbroker meeting. Replayability exists, but only the most patient will pursue. Destructoid, another 5. This time a 5.5 out of 10. While they see potential in Sonic Forces, the execution just isn't there, especially with the Switch edition. In the future, I really hope Sega reinvents the wheel, taking a more Mario Odyssey adventure approach. The whole level-based 3D thing hasn't worked out so frequently that it's worth a shot. So, Sonic Forces. Everybody was pretty high on Sonic Mania. This is because Sega trusted fans. They trusted fans that had been spending most of their creative life recreating Sega two-dimensional ROM hacks. After Sega had released an iOS port of Sonic 2 that ran terribly, this person, Christian Whitehead, I believe is the name, showed off their own Sonic 2 port that ran on iOS. Sega was so impressed by it, they hired him to give them the full budget. Said, all right, you're in the big leagues, kid. Make Sonic 2, make Sonic CD. They were great on iOS and Android, and gave them the full reins to make Sonic Mania. And Sonic Mania was a wonderful collection of remastered old levels, remixed levels, kind of taking the old ideas and switching them up a bit, and then also brand new levels, which I think were the most exciting. I think everybody's really excited for Sonic Mania 2. Sonic Mania came out at a great time in terms of nostalgia, and people just really happy to see a Sonic game succeed. And how surprising is it to see a gigantic company like Sega take a chance on an unproven developer, and that bet really paid off. So I've never really played a 3D Sonic game. They've never interested me, and I've heard wildly varying things. On Dreamcast, it was fantastic. We have somebody that is on our streams all the time, Jason Goldman, and he's a huge Sonic fan, and he'll talk your ear off about it. And there are some people that are very passionate about it. I was hoping that Sonic Forces would be good, and this is only a few reviews. And hey, the Famitsu scores, because they have 4 different reviewers that score it, 3 9s. It's amazing. By the way, this is my favorite Dragon Quest song ever. We'll turn it up just a little bit higher. Michael Corey is here. He says, hey man, how are you? I'm great, Michael. I'm really excited to be doing GameThinkTalk for you. This is a weekly gaming podcast. Sometimes we have on guests like Matthew Owen, sometimes Matthew Hayes, sometimes Kazi. We talk about games that people are playing. Today I wanted to do sort of a news recap because there are so many big things going on. Hope you're doing good, Michael. Kazi says he gave Forces a go at the EB Game Expo, just didn't feel good. I think that's the thing as well. What I'd like to see with Sonic is, Sonic has always been about speed and attitude. Why not a Sonic rhythm game, kind of like Thumper? And if you've never played Thumper, it's an extremely fast rhythm game where you race as the Silver Beetle down a roller coaster track, and you have to make very, very quick decisions. And the whole aspect of it, the visual tone, is this psychedelic, really punishing thing. Obviously, with Sonic, you have a lot more bright colors. Think Emerald Hill Zone, but you want to feel that sensation of speed, but still have the player feel involved and not make them feel like they're going to throw up from it. Jin Kapagami's here, and he's saying, "What's up?" with a big fat exclamation mark. Nice to see you, Jin. Hope you're doing well. Telltale is laying off 25% of their workers. This is going to affect 90 of their employees. This is a statement from Telltale Games CEO Pete Hawley. H-A-W-L-E-Y, pronounce it as you feel. Our industry has shifted in tremendous ways over the past few years. Yeah? I'll continue before I add my own. The realities of the environment we face moving forward demand we evolve. As well, reorienting our organization with a focus on delivering fewer, better games with a smaller team. Jin says, sorry for being rude, should sleep. Jin, you've never been rude. I appreciate literally everything you add to this channel. Michael Corey, it's been a while since I was on YouTube. I definitely missed this channel. That's a really nice thing to say, Michael. We've missed you. I do that too. I have favorite podcasts, and sometimes I just take a total break and I go away for like a couple months, and I think I'm never gonna listen to them again, and then I come back and I'm back into it. I think you just need to give your brain time to switch it up, especially if we're on here every day. But we're always here for you, and we're always glad to have you back. Thanks for the kind words. I want to look at a couple things in this story. Number one, they're going to have fewer and better games with a smaller team. It's one of those things where people say, look, you can have it good You could have it fast, or you can have it cheap. You only get to pick 2 of those. So they want to have it better, and they want it to cost less with smaller teams. And they're going to do fewer games. That sounds like they could make it work. Let's take a look. I wrote down the games they've put out since The Walking Dead 1. The Walking Dead 1 came out. There's your one game. And they had a ton of games before that. Poker Night 2 came out right after. Wolf Among Us, Walking Dead 2, Borderlands, Game of Thrones, Minecraft Story Mode, The Walking Dead Michonne, Batman, Walking Dead New Frontier. That's 10 already. Guardians of the Galaxy, Minecraft Season 2, Batman Enemy Within, Walking Dead Final Season announced for 2018, Wolf Among Us Quarter 3, Quarter 4 for 2018, Game of Thrones Season 2 TBA. That's 16 games that they have either released or are intending to release, because they also said in their statement they're not planning on making any changes to upcoming games. They hit it big with Walking Dead. They struggled a lot with games that came out before. Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, these were not good games. They were finding their way. Then they hit it out of the park with Walking Dead. It was a mainstream game. I think it won Game of the Year from PC Gamer, if I do believe, one of the first indie games to win that title. Everybody had to play it. Everybody had to talk about it. It was a huge influence, and obviously they're going to milk that. Poker Night 2 came out right after that. This is a series they'd already had, already had in production. Then they decided we got to do more of that, and that is exactly what you would expect any company to do, unless they're, you know, on the severely artistic side and they say, no, we can't do the same thing, we need to change it up. Wolf Among Us came out. That was also great. A lot of people would say it's arguably one of the best Telltale adaptations. It was great source material. They handled it well. One of my favorite, actually. Michael Corey totally forgot they had made Jurassic Park and Back to the Future. Yeah, well, because nobody was really talking about them before The Walking Dead Season 1. Then you had The Walking Dead 2. I got about halfway through that. Didn't have the same impact for me, but lots of people did really enjoy that. Borderlands came out. Borderlands is one of the funniest video games I've ever played, if not the funniest. Another success for them. Game of Thrones. This is where... And I've never watched Game of Thrones. And I've never played a Borderlands game. But I still love Telltale's Borderlands. Telltale's Game of Thrones? Ooh, I could not gel with that. This is when you started seeing some of the chinks in the armor. Other problems were appearing as well. They were putting these games on everything. Anything that could play a video game, you were going to be able to buy a Telltale game, regardless of how well it ran. People were complaining big time about trying to play these games on their iPads, and they were just running terribly. It was obviously a very, very old engine. It was obviously it was the same engine. They just kept... Somebody put it perfectly when they said it's time to reskin the puppets. It's such a macabre way of thinking about it, but it's just... they just have these mannequins hanging and those awkward facial animations, and in a game where you're trying to convey emotion. They weren't breaking those down. They were trying to just make money while they could, and you can't blame them for that. I'm sure that they just took everything that came their way and decided we'll just try to ramp up as we can and try to keep up. And there aren't too many games here that are... There's almost none that are bad. Almost all of them are probably... And many of them are fantastic. Borderlands, Wolf Among Us, most of The Walking Dead. I've heard great things about the Minecraft Story Mode. Batman has been very hit or miss. Guardians of the Galaxy, hit or miss. And then they've just continued on with further seasons. So they have done a pretty good job of not putting out total clunkers in terms of story and execution. But the big problem, I think, is that you know it's been how many years now, and you're still using the same engine, and you're charging the same amount for it. And it looked old after the first Walking Dead. So hopefully this means they're going to come back with a brand new engine, some new ideas. They still have to finish off this Walking Dead final season, Wolf Among Us 2, which was a nice fun announcement, but we'll see what that looks like, and another Game of Thrones season 2. But the thing with the Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, at least Game of Thrones is such a large property that you know they're not going to stop that. The contracts have been signed. You don't turn that down, no matter how it's going to be. They're going to try their hardest to make sure it's good. And it looks like they are. I mean, they just made an official statement, we're going to try and make it good. But then at the same time, you have this incongruent statement of of we're going to make better games. We're going to make less games. It's going to be better. By the way, we just laid off 25% of our staff. But we're still going to be making better games with less people. We're just going to focus on less games. They're still putting out three more games within the next year. That's a lot. That's a heavy schedule. So those are the biggest stories I wanted to talk about. Is there anything anyone else here wanted to talk about before I say goodbye? I'm going to be back tomorrow morning with some Final Fantasy X-2. I'm going to finally redo those last 2 hours that I had misplaced by not saving. And we're going to get back into this X-2. I'm going to give this game a good chance, a good shot before deciding whether to keep playing it or not. Because it's a little hard seeing my newly cherished Final Fantasy X finally completing the game in 2017 and having such a wonderful time with it and with everybody. And to see it treated so like a parody is a bit jarring to me. But I'll give the main quest a shot, and I'll figure everything else out tonight. Maybe playing it sort of off stream by myself for a bit, I'll get a better chance to sort of get to know the engine. Michael Corey says, I thought the engine suited The Walking Dead, especially after I read the comics. I did grow tired of the same old engine after Walking Dead, though. True. I don't think anybody thought the engine of the first Walking Dead was noticeably awkward. It was as it just kept going and going and going that it started showing its age. And even though Telltale's Borderlands, I had said is probably the funniest game I've ever played, other than South Park, but I would say that Borderlands might even be more consistently funnier than South Park. And what it does really, really well is when you have there goes the controller. When you have four, I don't think I've dropped anything more in my life than PlayStation controllers. When you have 4 options to say something in Borderlands, Telltale's Borderlands. I haven't played that loot box shooter. And one of the options is so dumb, and I would pick one of those dumb options. I really enjoyed that the responses you would get from the NPCs were right on the money with what I was thinking of how dumb that was. And I really appreciated that. I felt like they had their finger on the pulse. However, there wasn't really much you had to do in Telltale's Borderlands. You would get to a scene, and they would say, all right, we need to find this object to progress to the next scene. There's no thought involved. There's no choices. It's just walk to everything, interact with it. You will find the thing. There's no thought process of putting this over here, combining it. It's not like an adventure game, which may require a bit more abstract thinking. There was no real challenge. Often, even though I was laughing my butt off at Tales of the Borderlands, I often thought, why am I here? Why is this a game and not a TV show? Because it would be a great TV show. I'd watch it. But I didn't need to really be using the controller for almost all of it. There were a few, there's a few of these different conversations you can choose. You get to pick the punchline. It's basically like a punchline simulator in a way. Kazi says, yeah, I need to pick up that game. Kazi, I think you would really like Tales of the Borderlands. It's such a funny game. I highly recommend it. Well, that's gonna do it for me now. Maybe I'll stream some of this 10-2 later on tonight, as I try to make up for lost progress. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just catch up on some listening. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up talking to Kazi on his phone. Thank you very much to Michael, Corey, Jin Kapagami, Kazi, and Whispering Fisher for watching the show. I'll see everybody tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, for some Final Fantasy X-2. We're also streaming The Legend of Dragoon on the channel. We are streaming Assassin's Creed 2. We're eventually going to get to Lost Odyssey, the Hironobu Sakaguchi, Mr. Final Fantasy himself, the game that he made on his own with Mistwalker Studios, released exclusively for the Xbox 360. And we're going to start playing a Tales of game. So we have lots of great things lined up for the channel. Check out 90skid.com for news, reviews, opinions, gameology, all that stuff. You guys have a great night. Michael Corey is asking, have I ever played Thimbleweed Park? Says it's a great adventure game. You know what? I have not, but Matthew Owen talked to me about it on one of our GameThinkTalks Talks a few months back when it had come out, and he had great things to say about it. It looks great. It's got that... If the people that grew up with those 90s really funny, smart point-and-click adventure games, they're looking for something else. It was a Kickstarter game. I love when Kickstarter... When you think back, like, for example, for me, I just want a wrestling game that's exactly like No Mercy. That's what I want. And Kickstarter would be a great thing for that. I just want a Masters of Orion type game. I would love a Kickstarter for that. Even though they did a reboot of Masters of Orion, it was pretty good. This is one of those things where people that maybe have lapsed as gamers and, you know, they're fine with the current gaming landscape, but they really craved another point. A game like Thimbleweed Park, it's so wonderful and something like that. You get the old band back together, you get these old creators that worked on those games, that love those games, and you just deliver exactly what people are looking for. Banner Saga, something like that. What's the other one that was made by the people that made like Fallout 1 and Fallout 2? I can't think of it right now, but it's a very popular game. It's that old school RPG, top-down, isometric style. Tons of text, tons of lore. Anyways, that's enough for me now. I'll see you guys later. You guys have a great one, and enjoy this amazing 60s retro vibey Mario Odyssey song, Steam Gardens from the Wooded Kingdom. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.